You recalled moments when words seemed to dissipate into thin air, as if they were mere soulless echoes. Conversations that should have been deep became superficial, while you longed for a genuine connection. In a relationship, the expectation of being heard is fundamental. However, reality often shows that listening can be nothing more than an illusion. There was a woman who dedicated herself to sharing her thoughts and feelings with her partner. She spent time crafting her words, hoping he could grasp her essence. Yet his responses were often empty, as if he were just playing a role. She spoke about her insecurities, her fears, and her hopes, but she felt he was more interested in keeping the conversation light, avoiding any emotional depth. What she didn't realize was that he was actually uncomfortable with the intensity of her emotions. He pretended to understand, but his distant gaze and quick replies revealed a lack of attention. Instead of creating a safe space for her to express herself, he opted for selective listening, filtering out what he didn't want to confront. Each time she tried to open up, he would change the subject or offer unsolicited advice, reinforcing the feeling that her words were disposable. This pattern repeated itself, and the woman began to feel invisible. She questioned whether something was wrong with her, whether her emotions were too heavy, or if her needs were too demanding. Thus, the conversation transformed into a monologue, where her voice grew increasingly muffled. What she didn't know was that his lack of listening didn't reflect her inadequacy. Rather, it highlighted his inability to cope with vulnerability. Frustration grew over time, and her attempts to be heard became more desperate. She started to avoid certain topics, fearing that her words would again fall into a void. Instead of feeling supported, the sense of loneliness intensified. What should have been a space of love and understanding turned into an environment where communication was a minefield. In this scenario, the woman decided to reflect on what was happening. She realized that she couldn't change the way he listened. What she could do was reclaim her voice, reconnect with her strength, and seek relationships where listening was genuine. Over time, she freed herself from the cycle of one-sided conversations, understanding that she deserved to be truly heard. In the end, what remains is the importance of recognizing when we are surrounded by silences that speak louder than words. It is a reminder that true listening is a gift that should be both offered and received with gratitude. For a relationship to thrive, it is essential that both parties are committed to listening, not only with their ears but with their hearts. And so, the woman found a new path, one where listening and understanding were mutual, and where her emotions were not just words thrown to the wind, but rather the bridge that connected two souls. She decided it was time to take action. With a new understanding of herself and her needs, she began to explore new social circles. She participated in support groups and communities where vulnerability was valued. Every conversation there was an opportunity to express her emotions without fear of being misunderstood. Active listening became a common practice among the participants, and this made her realize how much she had been in a relationship that didn't allow for that genuine exchange. In this environment, she found people who also carried deep and complex stories. Each of them had their own insecurities and doubts, but the difference was their willingness to share and listen. It was as if a new light had been lit inside her, as interactions became more authentic, and she felt fully embraced. This motivated her to consider what she truly wanted in a romantic relationship. Over time, she began to open herself up to the possibility of new love. The idea of exposing herself to someone again made her a bit anxious, but her recent experience encouraged her. This time, she knew she shouldn't settle for less than she deserved. As she met new people, she set clear boundaries regarding her expectations and what she considered essential in a relationship: open communication, respect, and, most importantly, the ability to listen. On one of these dates, she met a man who seemed different. He not only listened to her but also asked questions. It wasn't superficial listening. There was a genuine interest in her experiences and feelings. Each conversation flowed naturally, and as their stories intertwined, she felt that she was finally being seen. This brought immense relief, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. They began to meet regularly, and their conversations deepened in both depth and intimacy. She realized that her insecurities were understood, and their shared hopes were nurtured through constant dialogue. The connection they formed was based on a mutual understanding that vulnerability was a strength, not a weakness. He also shared his experiences and fears, creating a safe space for both of them. This new relationship wasn't without its challenges. Sometimes they faced misunderstandings, but there was a fundamental difference. Both were willing to listen to each other. When conflicts arose, they would sit down and talk, striving to understand each other's perspective. This willingness to communicate and resolve issues together was a refreshing change for her. Instead of feeling invisible, she felt valued and respected. Time passed, and the woman began to notice significant changes in her life. The confidence she had regained was not limited to her relationship. It extended to other areas as well. She started to express her opinions at work with more clarity and assertiveness. The pressure she once felt to conform to behaviors that weren't her own began to disappear. She was becoming her own ally, and that empowered her. Communication became a central part of her new life. Instead of avoiding difficult discussions, she faced them head-on, knowing that mutual listening could lead to resolution. This approach helped her strengthen not only her romantic relationship, but also her friendships and family ties. Now she felt comfortable opening up to friends, and her social circles were more connected and harmonious. What began as a recognition of the lack of listening in her previous relationship transformed into a powerful lesson. She understood that communication is a two-way street, and that for it to work, one must be willing to listen and be heard. This understanding led her to seek out and cultivate relationships that not only nourished her emotionally, but also challenged her to grow. She realized that true listening is an act of love. It's not just about words, but the intention behind them. Listening is a gift that is offered, just as receiving is an act of gratitude. This dynamic became the foundation of her new interactions, and the woman felt more alive than ever. Looking back, she saw that her past, though painful, had prepared her for this moment. The experiences of silence and words that dissipated into the air did not define her, but they shaped her. Now she had the ability to turn her feelings into something constructive, a testament to resilience and self-understanding. She learned that the value of her voice was not just in the words, but in the strength they carried when spoken in a safe and welcoming space. Thus the woman not only found new love, but also a new love for herself. This love reflected in every interaction, in every conversation, in every moment when her emotions were respected and valued. Finally, she was where she had always been meant to be. In a place where listening was genuine and connection was real, the woman began to realize that true listening shaped not only her romantic relationship, but all aspects of her life. Open communication became an essential pillar in her journey. She decided she would not settle for anything less than she deserved in any interaction, whether at work, in friendships, or with family. This new approach brought a clarity she previously lacked. In her professional environment, she adopted a more assertive stance. When participating in meetings, she did not hesitate to share her ideas. Dealing with resistance became easier, as she understood that her voice had value. When a colleague disagreed, she would sit down and discuss it respectfully. This willingness to listen and be heard transformed the team's atmosphere, fostering a collaborative environment. Over time, her confidence grew and began to make a difference in her career. What once was a source of anxiety became an opportunity for growth. She started receiving positive feedback, and her superiors began to notice her ability to lead discussions and find solutions. This evolution not only motivated her, but also inspired those around her. On a personal level, she also began to open up to her family. Conversations that were once superficial became deeper. She encouraged her family members to share their feelings, creating a space where everyone felt safe to express their emotions. Whenever a family member faced difficulties, she was there to listen, offering support without judgment. This dynamic renewed family bonds, strengthening the connection among everyone. She realized that many of her family members also struggled to communicate effectively. The lack of listening was present in many interactions, but now, with her new perspective, she felt motivated to create an environment where vulnerability was valued. She encouraged her siblings to talk about their struggles, and as a result, she witnessed a transformation in their relationships. Conversations became more frequent and meaningful. With friendships, the impact was equally positive. By surrounding herself with people who valued listening, she felt more connected. Outings with friends became moments of genuine exchange, where everyone felt comfortable sharing their experiences. By listening attentively to the challenges and joys of her friends, she noticed that their relationships deepened. The shared laughter became more authentic, and discussions about difficulties turned into dialogues of support. Once, during a gathering with friends, one of them vented about the pressure to be successful. The woman, now confident, listened attentively without interrupting. When he finished, she shared her own insecurities about success. This exchange of experiences made her friend feel understood, and the conversation turned into a space for mutual support. This new way of relating prompted her to realize that listening is a skill that can be cultivated. Consistent practice helped her become not only a better listener, but also a more effective communicator. Over time, her interactions became more enriching, and she began to attract people who also prioritized listening. These new connections were built on a foundation of respect and empathy. In addition, she dedicated herself to developing her emotional awareness. To achieve this, she sought knowledge about emotional intelligence and nonviolent communication. This learning empowered her to handle conflicts constructively. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations, she faced them with courage, knowing that listening could turn misunderstandings into opportunities for growth. In a previous relationship, she had avoided discussions, fearing rejection. Now, she understood that vulnerability is an essential part of any healthy relationship. For example, in a discussion with her new partner, they addressed a misunderstanding about priorities. Instead of pulling away, the woman suggested that they both express their feelings. This approach allowed them to find common ground where both felt heard and respected. She also began to practice active listening in everyday situations. When a co-worker spoke about a project, she made an effort to truly understand their concerns and ideas. This not only improved her professional relationships, but also made people feel valued in her presence. This change created a positive cycle, where listening became a contagious behavior. At home, the woman implemented moments of pause. She established a ritual where once a week she would sit down with her family to discuss how everyone was feeling. These meetings were informal and had no rigid format. The goal was to create a space for open dialogue where everyone could share their joys and concerns. These gatherings became a foundation of emotional support, where each family member felt part of a whole. She began to notice that the silences that once bothered her were now filled with a sense of welcome. Conversations flowed naturally, and interactions were no longer about who would speak the most, but about who could listen better. The woman became an example of how listening can transform relationships, and this change began to resonate within her social circle. What started as a simple change in perspective became a powerful force that shaped her life. The woman felt more connected to herself and to others, and this connection motivated her to continue exploring new relationships. She allowed herself to be vulnerable, recognizing that by doing so, she was building a path of authenticity and sincerity. Each day, her life became richer in experiences and meaningful interactions. Her journey of self-discovery led her to understand that true listening is a skill that develops with practice and intention. And by cultivating this skill, the woman not only transformed her life but also impacted everyone around her. She had found her voice, and more importantly, she had learned how to listen. The woman began to realize that true listening was not just a skill, but a form of love. By creating an environment where vulnerability was valued, she discovered that relationships became more authentic. Open communication allowed everyone to express not only joys, but also insecurities and fears. This sincere exchange helped strengthen the bonds between friends and family. She remembered a specific conversation with a friend who had been facing difficulties at work. By listening attentively, the woman realized that her friend needed more than just advice. She needed a safe space to vent. At the end of the conversation, the friend expressed gratitude, stating that she felt lighter after sharing her concerns. This was a pivotal moment for the woman, as it confirmed that active listening truly makes a difference in people's lives. Over time, she began to notice patterns in how people behaved around her. Those who were willing to listen stood out, while those who avoided open dialogue became increasingly isolated. This motivated her to surround herself with individuals who valued communication. Thus, she began actively seeking new connections, participating in social events and groups that promoted the sharing of experiences. In group interactions, she became a natural facilitator, encouraging others to share their stories and listen to one another. This role was not only a reflection of her newfound confidence, but also a way to give back the support she had received. She realized that by fostering listening, she was helping to create a cycle of empathy and understanding. The development of her emotional intelligence also helped her become more aware of group dynamics. She learned to identify when someone felt excluded or uncomfortable and made it a point to include that person in the conversation. This ability to read others' emotions made her a more attentive friend and colleague, capable of recognizing the unspoken needs of others. The woman also began to apply this understanding in her professional life. In team meetings, she encouraged everyone to participate, ensuring that each voice was heard. By creating an environment of respect and collaboration, the team's productivity increased. The trust among the members grew, and the work atmosphere became more positive. This transformation was noticed by her superiors, who began to acknowledge her contributions to the company culture. The woman started receiving leadership opportunities as people viewed her as someone capable of uniting the group. She felt fulfilled, as she was not only progressing in her career, but also helping others feel more connected and valued. This new perspective on listening and communication motivated her to seek further learning about leadership and personal development. She participated in courses and workshops that explored nonviolent communication and conflict mediation. Each new piece of knowledge she acquired was a tool she used to enhance her interactions. As a result, she became a reference point in her team, someone her colleagues trusted to help resolve misunderstandings. This position brought a new responsibility, but also a sense of purpose. On a personal level, the woman continued to cultivate relationships based on listening and empathy. She started to organize regular get-togethers with friends, where everyone could share their feelings and challenges. These meetings became a tradition, a safe space where no one felt judged. The dynamics of the conversations evolved, and everyone benefited from this openness. The woman realized that by creating a space for others to express themselves, she was also allowing herself to share her own vulnerabilities. This brought a new level of intimacy to her friendships. She felt closer to each of them, and the interactions became more meaningful. Moments of laughter and tears intertwined, creating a strong fabric of mutual support. The impact of her transformation was beyond what she could have imagined. Family relationships began to change as well. By establishing open conversations with her parents and siblings, she saw how many of them were facing their own struggles in silence. The woman encouraged each of them to open up, and the previously superficial conversations turned into deep dialogues about life experiences, challenges, and aspirations. She started organizing family lunches, where everyone could share how they were feeling. These moments became an opportunity to strengthen family bonds, creating a support network based on vulnerability and listening. The woman was surprised to realize how positively her initiative affected the family dynamic. Conversations that were once avoided were now anticipated, and communication became one of the pillars of family unity. As her journey progressed, the woman also dedicated herself to helping others cultivate listening in their lives. She began writing about her experiences, sharing tips on how to practice active listening and the importance of this skill in relationships. Her writings resonated with many people, and she received positive feedback, reflecting how her words were helping others connect more meaningfully. She became an active voice in her community, participating in events that promoted emotional health and well-being in relationships. The talks and workshops she offered were well received, and people felt inspired to apply what they learned in their own lives. This new phase brought a sense of fulfillment and purpose that the woman had never felt before. She knew that true listening was a practice that needed to be cultivated constantly. Learning and growth didn't have a final destination. They were an ongoing journey. Looking back on her path, she felt grateful for every experience that had brought her to this point. Now the woman not only listened but was also heard. She had found a healthy balance in her interactions, where both listening and expressing were valued. This journey of self-discovery taught her that true human connection is based on the willingness to listen and the courage to share. And so, the woman continued to nurture her relationships, always seeking greater understanding and connection. Listening became a fundamental part of who she was, and through it, she helped to shape a more empathetic and welcoming world around her. She realized that true listening not only transformed her personal relationships, but also had a profound impact on her professional life. She began to implement practices of clear and open communication at work, resulting in a more collaborative and productive environment. colleagues started to feel more comfortable sharing ideas and concerns, creating a climate of trust. With this new dynamic, conflicts in the workplace became less frequent. When disagreements arose, conversations were conducted with respect and empathy. The woman became a natural mediator, helping to facilitate constructive discussions. Her ability to actively listen to her colleagues' concerns positioned her as a respected leader, motivating her to seek even more learning about leadership and conflict resolution. She signed up for courses on nonviolent communication and emotional intelligence, where she learned practical tools to handle challenging situations. These skills proved to be valuable, enabling her to approach difficult conversations with confidence. The woman began to apply these concepts in her personal life, understanding that communication is a two-way street. Over time, she became a go-to person in her team, known for her ability to unite people around common goals. Meetings that were once tense and filled with misunderstandings now flowed with ideas and collaboration. Her ability to listen and value everyone's contributions made all feel part of the process. However, the woman also knew that listening wasn't just about hearing words, but also about noticing nonverbal cues. She started to pay attention to her colleagues' facial expressions and body language, which helped her identify when someone was feeling uncomfortable or excluded. This sensitivity allowed her to address issues before they became larger problems. Interactions became more authentic, and people began to trust her more. This encouraged her to get involved in projects she had previously hesitated to lead. She realized she had the ability to inspire others to open up and share their ideas. This newfound confidence led her to take on leadership roles in initiatives that promoted diversity and inclusion in the workplace. In her personal life, the woman continued to cultivate relationships that valued listening and vulnerability. She organized regular gatherings with friends, where everyone could share their experiences without fear of being judged. These meetings became a sacred space for sharing stories and emotions, where everyone felt welcomed. The woman also started practicing active listening in her own home. She encouraged her children to express their feelings, creating an environment where open communication was valued. Instead of simply giving advice, she learned to ask questions that helped her children explore their own emotions. This approach fostered a strong bond between them, and their conversations became moments of mutual learning. She realized that creating a safe space for her children to express themselves was crucial for their emotional development. When one of her children faced difficulties at school, she encouraged him to share what he was feeling. This not only helped to solve problems, but also strengthened the trust between them. The woman was pleased to see how this practice positively impacted her children's emotional well-being. These deep interactions also influenced her friends and family. By demonstrating the importance of listening, she began to notice changes in the dynamics of her relationships. Friends who had previously been more reserved now felt comfortable sharing their struggles and successes. This exchange created a cycle of mutual support, where everyone felt valued. The woman also decided to get involved in her community, promoting events that encouraged listening and empathy. She organized discussion panels on mental health and emotional well-being, where people could share their stories and learn from one another. These events attracted participants from diverse backgrounds, each bringing their unique perspective. These initiatives not only helped strengthen community ties, but also created a space for everyone's voices to be heard. The woman was moved to see how people connected, forming support networks that extended beyond the event. The conversations that emerged there were deep and meaningful, and that motivated her to continue her work. The woman also began writing about her experiences in a blog. Sharing her stories and insights on listening and vulnerability further connected her with others. Her writings resonated with many people, and she received positive feedback from readers who felt inspired by her words. This new form of expression became an extension of her journey, allowing her to help even more people recognize the power of listening. Over time, she realized that her growth was not limited to just her personal and professional relationships. She had become an advocate for active listening in her community, which brought a new sense of purpose to her life. Through constant practice and a quest for learning, she had discovered a new passion. Deep down, the woman understood that true listening is not a skill to be mastered once and for all. It is a continuous practice. She continued to seek opportunities for growth by participating in workshops and discussion groups that promoted active listening and empathy. This journey of self-discovery led her to a place where listening and vulnerability were fundamental, and she was eager to share that knowledge with the world. Ultimately, she realized that true listening is a gift to be given and received. The impact it had on her life and the lives of others was undeniable. Now she was fully committed to cultivating relationships that valued listening and understanding, knowing that this had not only transformed her life, but also the lives of those around her. The woman decided it was time to expand her impact even further. With the experience she gained, she began connecting with local organizations working towards mental health and emotional well-being. Together, they created programs that promoted active listening in schools and community centers. The goal was to teach communication skills to young people, helping them express their emotions and listen to others effectively. These workshops became a success. She noticed that many young people faced challenges similar to those she had encountered in the past. The lack of listening and the fear of opening up were barriers that many of them still carried. By sharing her experiences, the woman was able to build a bridge between her story and the reality of the youth, showing that vulnerability is a natural part of life. In the meetings, she utilized techniques that encouraged everyone's participation. She created practical activities that encouraged young people to communicate with one another, fostering a safe environment for the exchange of ideas and feelings. The sessions were dynamic, and she always made sure that every voice was heard, regardless of the opinion expressed. This approach helped build trust among the participants, allowing them to feel comfortable opening up. Furthermore, the woman began to notice the positive impact these interactions had on the young people's self-confidence. Many of them, who had previously been shy or hesitant, started to express themselves clearly. This transformation motivated her even more to continue her work, as she saw that active listening had the power to change lives. The success of the workshops did not go unnoticed. Other organizations began to take an interest in her initiatives, and soon she was invited to share her knowledge at conferences. These opportunities allowed her to reach a larger audience and discuss the importance of active listening in various contexts, such as the workplace and family relationships. With each presentation, the woman felt more confident. She knew she was contributing to a bigger movement, one that valued listening and empathy. Over time, more people began to join her cause, and the idea of promoting active listening started to spread throughout her community. Meanwhile, in her personal life, the woman continued to nurture her relationships with friends and family. The practices she had developed became part of everyone's routine. She frequently organized family and friend gatherings where listening was the main focus. These meetings transformed into meaningful sharing moments where everyone felt safe to express themselves. She noticed that the quality of conversations had significantly improved. The silences that once felt awkward were now filled with a sense of warmth. People began to share their struggles, and the woman became an emotional support for many. This exchange of experiences strengthened bonds, creating a network of support that benefited everyone. Additionally, the woman realized that active listening also had a positive impact on her mental health. By listening to others and allowing their emotions to be expressed, she felt a lightness and connection she had not experienced before. This ongoing exchange of vulnerabilities helped her process her own emotions in a healthier way. The environment she had created around her had a ripple effect. Friends who had previously been more reserved started to open up, and conversations became a space for mutual growth. The woman realized that by promoting listening, she was helping to heal wounds that many carried without even realizing it. Over time, she became a trusted figure in her community, not just as someone who fostered active listening, but as an advocate for emotional well-being. People sought her out for advice and support, and she was always ready to listen. Her empathetic and open approach helped her connect with a variety of people, regardless of their life experiences. The woman also began to explore new forms of engagement. She participated in mental health awareness campaigns, addressing topics like depression and anxiety. By sharing real stories and emphasizing the importance of listening, she helped to destigmatize these issues and encouraged others to seek help. During these events, she conveyed the message that listening is not just a kind act, but a fundamental human necessity. Interaction and the exchange of experiences can be transformative, and people need to understand that it is normal to seek emotional support. This understanding was essential in creating an environment where everyone felt valued. As her journey continued, the woman also began to reflect on her own growth. She noticed that she had become more assertive about her needs and desires. In her romantic relationships, this newfound confidence helped her establish healthier boundaries, ensuring that her emotions were respected. However, she was also aware that vulnerability did not mean giving up her needs. Now she felt empowered to express what she truly wanted in a relationship, without fear of being misunderstood. This clarity helped her find partners who shared her values, and the connections became more meaningful. Conversations with her new partner were enriching. Both were committed to listening to and understanding each other's emotions. This open communication not only strengthened their relationship, but also provided a safe space for both of them to explore their vulnerabilities. She began to see love from a new perspective. Vulnerability, which had once felt like a burden, was now a source of strength. This shift in mindset was crucial for the development of a healthy and balanced relationship. As the woman continued to grow, she remembered the importance of sharing her journey. She started writing a book, where she would tell her story and the lessons she had learned about listening and vulnerability. Her aim was to inspire others to recognize the power of communication and the importance of being open with one another. Writing became a form of therapy and a way to help even more people. She wanted her story to be a sign that true listening can transform lives and that everyone deserves to be heard. With every page she wrote, she felt that she was contributing to a more empathetic and welcoming world. These experiences shaped her in ways she could never have imagined. The value she had found in her own voice was now reflected in everything she did. The woman had become a true testament to the power of listening and empathy, and her journey was just beginning. Determined to take her message further, the woman began planning a series of workshops and seminars on active listening and effective communication, with the goal of reaching broader communities, especially those facing challenges related to mental health and a lack of connection. The idea of creating a space where people could feel safe to share their stories was central to her approach. She began connecting with schools, non-profit organizations, and community groups, offering her services as a facilitator. The response was positive, and soon she found opportunities in various institutions that were willing to support her initiative. These events became a platform not only for teaching but also for listening to the concerns and experiences of the participants. During the workshops, she used practical exercises to demonstrate the power of listening. Participants were encouraged to pair up, where one person spoke while the other listened attentively without interruptions. These moments were revealing, as many participants were surprised to realize how much lighter they felt after being heard. The woman noticed that this simple practice generated a significant transformation in the dynamics of the groups. Over time, she began to notice a pattern. Participants not only benefited from the listening, but also felt motivated to apply these skills in their daily lives. Reports of positive changes began to emerge, including improvements in family relationships and increased confidence in professional settings. This encouraging response fueled her desire to expand her initiatives. The woman decided to create an online platform to share resources and tips on active listening. She began recording short videos explaining concepts and offering practical exercises that anyone could use. The idea was to make the teachings accessible to everyone, regardless of their location or situation. As her online presence grew, the woman received messages of gratitude from people who were applying her tips and seeing changes in their lives. This connection with a broader audience motivated her to continue her work. She was building a community of people committed to improving their communication and empathy skills. With this, the woman felt fulfilled. The impact she was having stretched beyond what she could imagine. In each interaction, she saw the power of listening manifesting, creating stronger and more genuine bonds among people. Thus, her journey became a testament to the priceless value of active listening in all facets of life. Before you go, do two things right now. Take a deep breath and hold on to what touched your heart today. And if it makes sense, share this story with someone who also needs to hear it.